Hello everyone and welcome back to a best-of-3 series in StarCraft 2. Today it's time for a Zerg vs Protoss, where in game number 1 we find ourselves on the map Inside and Out. Spawning right here in the bottom left-hand corner and playing with the red Zerg drones, we have an absolute channel favorite. She's from Canada and she goes by the name of Scarlett. Now, if you've been watching StarCraft 2 for some time, you're probably familiar with Scarlett. I mean, there's a lot of games of her out there. She's very popular in SC2 and yeah, you're probably well familiar with the way that she likes to play. Her opponent, however, may very well be someone you're not as familiar with, or maybe you've never even heard the name before, and I don't blame you. So playing right here in the top right-hand corner of the map with the blue Protoss pieces from France, we are looking at Arrogfire's main Nexus. Now, the reason why you're probably not as familiar with Arrogfire is the fact that Arrogfire has never played in Premier tournaments before. The simple reason for that is that Premier tournaments, you need to be 16 years old in order to sign up. And as we're making this video right now, Arrogfire is 15. He's the most successful player over the last couple of years in the junior championships of StarCraft 2. As we're making this video, he's currently a top 25 Grandmaster League player on the European server, which for obvious reasons is extremely impressive, also because the European server is extremely competitive. So Arrogfire has been climbing through the ranks over the last couple of years, and while he doesn't really get to play in as many tournaments, at the very least as far as, you know, big events go, as some of these other players that I cast more frequently, I do want to shine a spotlight on him, because I wouldn't be surprised if, yeah, one day he will be one of the great RTS players. Whether or not it's going to be StarCraft 2, that will remain to be seen, but, you know, maybe the Stormgate game, right, that the Frost Giant guys are currently working on, I wouldn't be surprised if Arrogfire is going to be making that switch on over to that game if it ever comes out. I mean, it should come out, right? I mean, we never know. Anyhow, don't get me wrong. I do definitely favor Scarlett in a series like this. She's been playing this game for well over a decade. She's extremely experienced in tournaments, but as far as I can tell, this is the first time that they faced off against each other, so I can imagine that she's probably going to play a relatively safe game. You don't really want to, you don't want to necessarily cheese your way to success, just because it's a little bit riskier. Generally speaking, if you take chances, obviously, you're not as in control of where the outcome of the game is going to be. So I wouldn't be surprised if Scarlett is going to play her very standard, straightforward macro game. What impresses me about Arrogfire, I've seen about a dozen games over the years where he played. In pretty much all of them, as far as I recall at the very least, he's always played macro. So he's never really been a cheesy player. I mean, yeah, you can obviously win against good players by playing cheesy games, right? Just going for all-ins every time, but honestly, that doesn't really impress me all too much. I mean, sure, it's fun to watch someone get cheese, right? If you can win a best-of-5 series with cheese against someone like Scarlett, all right, that's awesome, right? Can he get a... No, I was going to say, maybe he's going to try and get a drone. Nice micro right there by Scarlett. Adept does need to get on out of there, but as long as it keeps most of its health intact, this should be a-okay. Anyways, Arrogfire pretty much always plays macro. So we'll find out together exactly how well he faces off against someone of the caliber of Scarlett. So it's going to be a Glaive Adept opener. Okay. This opener in Zerg vs Protoss always kind of reminds me of the 2-1-1 in Zerg vs Terran. So Scarlett right now scouts it brilliantly as well. This is one of those builds that pretty much always, comes back every once in a while, right? Like we see it coming out in tournaments regularly, but definitely not every single game. The majority of the Protoss players in PvZ right now, they're focusing on either that Stargate-based approach or that hero-based approach with the Mass Gateway army. This is a little bit different. This is a more timing attack-oriented style where Arrogfire will go for 4 gateways here in total. There's a couple of variants. You can go for 8 gateways as well, or 7 if you really want to, but this is going to be the 4 gateway variant where you're basically going to chrono boost out a warp gate right over there. You're obviously going to get the prism. You're going to get yourself the Glaive Adept upgrades, and then you're going to try and just pick off as many drones as possible, or just force out a ton of army there from the opponent. So Scarlett did just now scout it. Overlord right now goes in again. This is Scarlett figuring out exactly what it is that the opponent is going for. Roach Warren at this point, I believe, yes, is done. So that's a very conservatively timed Roach Warren right there. Not taking any chances. At this point, the Adepts that are moving across the map are spotted. And, of course, that Prism will provide an opportunity for this Protoss player to also reinforce it. So is there going to be enough army right here for Scarlett to stop this? There should be. Yeah. This choke point over here is actually quite nice. Arrogfire maybe playing the map. I mean, Zerglings can't really get a wraparound over there. Yeah. Keeping some of those units alive by popping them into the Prism. So far, so good for Arrog. There you go, picking up the weakened units, popping them out in the back of that army once again. Non-stop unit production here from Scarlett for quite some time already. The biggest problem here for Protoss is the inevitable counterattack. So oftentimes this is followed up with, like, for example, Dark Templar, specifically for that reason. Zerg is not going to be at a lair or anything along those lines yet. Actually, no detection here either by Scarlett, by the way. That is a little bit risky. I mean, she did go in with the Overlord. So, you know, at the very least, she knows how much there roughly is inside of that Protoss main base. But I would be a little bit concerned for a Dark Templar follow-up. And honestly, if that would have been the case, there's a good chance that Arrogfire would have won the game. Apparently, though, Scarlett feeling comfortable enough to not make that decision. Either way, at this point, yeah, not really a lot of drone kills, but a lot of Spore Crawlers here are now being forced out exactly for that reason. And 36 workers here for a while only for Scarlett. That doesn't mean that Arrogfire, despite the, yeah, non-lethal opener that he's gone for, he did actually obtain a nice little economical game. All right. 2 Adepts splitting themselves up from the group. They do commit over there in the third base. The rest of the army does not go towards the natural. Third Nexus, in the meantime, has been planted down, so this is Arrogfire just trying to buy as much time as possible. I'm a little bit concerned right here for the... Ooh, no, don't attack the rocks. Okay, he was attacking the rocks right there for a second. I'm a little bit concerned here for the counterattack. Because Scarlett has been making a ton of army for a while. This Adept push right now is held. Is there going to be enough out for Arrogfire to keep that third Nexus alive? At this point, we're talking 9 Adepts against 14 Roaches and 18 Zerglings. I'm starting to be a little bit concerned. Shield battery is coming up, but it's not done just yet, so no battery overcharge. These Lings, though, are going to get picked off very easily because of that attack speed buff that we've got right here on those Adepts with the Glaive's Research. Immortal just about to pop out. That one's going to be so critical. Please bring it forward. Please bring it forward. All right, there we go. It is going to be moving. Nexus is going to finish up, so battery overcharge is an option. No, it's not going to happen, I guess, if it's already dead. Immortal, slowly but surely, moves it over here. Excellent control so far, though, by the Protoss player. And what seemed like an easy picking right here on that Nexus. You know what? Yeah, the Prism should be able to keep most of this alive. Good force field as well. Arrogfire playing like a champ. Nicely done. We're talking like, what, 9 Adepts versus like 18 Roaches when I check the unit count? Roaches are obviously not that fast without the Glial Reconstitution upgrade, which starts up at this point, but I thought that the third Nexus may very well go down, but not even close. Maybe if Scarlett decided to target fire it down aggressively, it would have fallen, but at that point the Adepts would have been working on that army for a while as well. Alright, so what are we gonna do from here? Maybe a little bit of nerfs coming in there? Interesting recall. Yeah. Definitely some nerves, I think, coming into the mix. That was a recall on 1 probe. You wanted to go for a Robo Bay. Good cancel. Very nice cancel. Yeah, look at the speed as well that he's playing at, actually. This is fantastic. So one advantage that younger players usually have in StarCraft 2 is that they're ridiculously quick. I mean, Scarlett, obviously, she's been building up that muscle memory for the better part of a decade. But Arrogfire playing at 400 actions per minute. Not something that we necessarily see from every single Protoss player, let's be honest. Okay, no, Loko, be nice, be nice. There's a lot of Protoss players, though, that I face off against in Grandmaster League that are playing at like 2 digits actions per minute, and it, you know, it's a little bit painful sometimes. Anyway, a Robo Bay at this point was spotted as well by Scarlett. 2 drones end up going down over here, alright. Scarlett at this point knows that it's going to be a Disruptor or a Colossus transition, but 9 times out of 10 it should be Disruptors. So Blink, Disruptor, Immortal, Sentry. A very micro-heavy army right here from Arrog. But yeah, playing a very mature playstyle here. Not easy. Definitely not the approach that many players would go for if they were to face off against Scarlett. But doing a good job. Creep spread, by the way, looking fantastic. She's known as the Queen of Blades for good reason, right? One thing that, yeah, Scarlett was known for, especially back in the day, before other players got very good at it too, was just her creep spread. These days, all the top-level Zerg players are expected to have good creep, but she was one of the first players who really started making additional queens just to spread those tumors around. And you can see that a good chunk of the mini-map has already been covered. She's gonna go for a Hive. +2 melee is coming up as well as +1 missile attacks. There's a Spire, okay. So I'm assuming here with the timing right there of that Hive as well as the Spire that this is going to be a Brute Lord transition. Broadly speaking, I guess against Robo Facility play, you have 2 or 3 options. The first one would be like Mass Ling. So Mass Zergling is surprisingly good against Disruptor-based armies. Second option would be to rush out Vipers. And the third one, I think that's what Scarlett is going for here, is a lot of those Brute Lords. Brute Lords are amazing. Okay, so she's gonna go Vipers? Is she gonna go Greater Spire too? I was gonna say, like, if you go straight into a Greater Spire, it's awesome once you get the Brute Lords out, but it takes a while, and usually there's this awkward state, yeah, where you're maxed out, and obviously you can't make Corruptors and Brute Lords without supply. Okay, so it's gonna be Vipers, but maybe Brute Lords as a follow-up? I'm not sure. Maybe she's concerned for, like, a Skytools transition on the back of this, but I doubt it. Anyhow. Arrogfire at this point, not aware of the potential for that sort of tech just yet. Does get into the main base. Okay, that Hallucinated Phoenix needs to move forward a little bit more to check the timing right there of the hive. Okay, there it is. Nicely done. Arrog sees the Spire as well. Okay, great. Honestly, really good. I would like to see a little bit more activity out on the map to clear out some of the creep. At this point, this creep is so far forward that it's very hard to actually take it out. Okay, Baneling run by over here up north. This one is going to deal some damage while the Protoss army is distracted. Good blocking right there as well with that body of the Stalker. No, don't lose a random Immortal right there in the middle of the map. That is a little bit unfortunate. That one was probably not on the control group. Either way, we're getting to that Death Ball-y type of army, right? So we're getting to Archon Immortal, Zealot, Storm, we have Colossi in the mix, Disruptors are here too, that Disruptor Purification Nova, nicely done. The problem is, yeah, now the Vipers are out as well, and those Vipers are very scary, abducting those Colossi in the middle of the army. That being said, the Disruptors are also getting a lot of work done. Good control right there by Arrogfire in the back. Some of the gateways were unpowered, but a new pylon does finish up, so gonna be able to use that as a warp-in point too. A lot of money available for both players. There's the Greater Spire coming up. It's about a third of the way done. Okay. So that trade right there by Scarlett was actually wonderful. Not just because of the fight, because that fight went pretty well, but also because she's now opening up supply to go towards Brute Lords. So ideally with Brute Lords, you want to suddenly bring out like a dozen of them all at once. I think 8 to 12 is a good number. If you go for about that many, you can counter what is essentially any type of Protoss ground army that isn't like mass Stalker. So at this point, Arrogfire is very focused on trying to kill those Roaches, Ravagers, Zerglings, Banelings, right? So he's going for a ground-based force, and there's really not a lot of anti-air in an army like this. So Scarlett just, yeah, poking over here at the front, trying to get some trades in, trying to keep this Protoss player occupied, trying to force them to warp in as many of those Zealots and Archons and whatnot as possible. So once the Brutes show up, there's not going to be that much available for the Protoss player to actually deal with it. The Scarlett's right here, definitely in a wonderful position. Another Colossus comes up. There's the Brute Lords being morphed in. It's only 4 of them, but honestly 4 at this point. Not bad whatsoever. Alright, so the early game was fantastic for Arrog. Mid-game, not as much. And now the late game has arrived. And if you look at the production tab, this is starting to be a problem. Still 4 Nexus available. It's not like Scarlett has a huge bank either. I'm just a little bit concerned for this Brute Lord transition, because I don't think Hallucinated Phoenixes at this point have scouted it out. That's one of the advantages of playing a very aggressive Protoss mid-game, right? When you see, for example, someone like Hero playing it, not only do you just constantly check... Nice Disruptor hit once again. Not only do you constantly check the amount of army that your opponent has, but you just, like, scout with the bulk of your army, right? If you're right over here, Zerg doesn't really have a lot of opportunities to morph in those Brute Lords. So Arrogfire playing a more laid-back approach right over here. I wonder if that is the correct choice against someone like Scarlett. Scarlett is just growing all over the map. Look at the minimap right now. The creep is practically everywhere. I think the scouting here on those Observers and Hallucinated Phoenixes definitely could have been a little bit better. I think we only are at 1 sentry over there, so no energy available. So despite the fact that Arrogfire has been holding on, I'm a little bit afraid what will happen as soon as he sees the Brutes. Scarlett is just making more, by the way. She doesn't really need this many, but yeah, more Corruptors, more Brute Lords. Recall right now being utilized once more. That Colossus, okay. A little bit far forward, but it will be micro towards the back of that Protoss base. Zealots and Yeah, Archons here are trading out against Roaches and Ravagers, and you can see Scarlett is not actually planning to replace those Roaches and Ravagers with more Roaches and Ravagers. Instead, she's going for more Zerglings and Banelings, and all the while, the Broodlord army is growing. We're coming up on 11 Brutes. As far as anti-air goes, Archons technically can hit Brutes, 6 Stalkers can technically hit Brutes, but as far as I know, there's not even Storm available, actually, so we did have... the Templar Archives right there. We did have a bunch of High Templar. Maybe they were mostly made for feedbacking the Vipers. Well, that didn't really work out. Scarlett, I think it might be time to rip off the Band-Aid. She's playing safe, though. Yeah, she doesn't want to be caught off guard, but she now literally has creep on the bases that Protoss would normally acquire after their 4th. I think that the Brutes are still completely unscouted. Oh my god, she's going 8 more Corruptors! Even going for the Infestor Energy upgrade. Scarlett going for the bullying approach right over here. I'm fairly certain that this game is as good as over. This is the super safe approach, right? The one where you really don't want to take any damage whatsoever. You don't want to take any chances. Obviously, this is game 1 in a best-of-3 too. So if you absolutely crush your opponent late game or your opponent's late game army, that would be one way to, you know, demoralize them in the next game. Scarlett knows very well that Arrogfire has to go for an all-in here eventually, and apparently that time is right now. Problem is, this is the first time that the Broodlords are spotted. There are so many of those available. Arrog trying to move towards the front. Vipers are here. Yeah, no way. Absolutely no way that this is gonna work out. I mean, Stalkers are pretty good if they manage to get underneath. It's 12 Stalkers, they do have good upgrades. +3 is done. The problem is, if the Broodlings are on the ground, there's no way that the Stalkers can really get underneath properly. There's a lot of Banelings still available too. 12 more, by the way, of those probes ended up going down on the other side of the map as a Zergling run by is once again forcing the Warpins over there. Arrogfire right now abusing the immobility of this Zerg force, trying to go around the outside. Around the outside, around the outside. Okay, you know what? That trade was actually fantastic. Those Banelings barely did anything. Here we're gonna see a blink forward, I think. He's gonna have to commit to a blink. Yeah, he doesn't really want to because he knows that there's no way that those Brutes are gonna die. But this is Scarlett playing with her food for the most part. No Storm available either. That's sometimes something that you can, like, soften up those Brutes with. There's a lot more Corruptors on the back of this too, so the Corruptors are probably mostly here in case it would be like a Skytoss transition, right? So that's why Scarlett is playing so safely, by the way, with the Brutes. Usually attacking with the Broodlords, it's a one-way trip. They don't usually make their way home. Alright, there's the... Oh, can't even blink forward. There's the fungal growth as well. Finally, it wears off. It basically inhibits the movement abilities in StarCraft 2, and you can see that this Protoss army is absolutely destroyed. There it is. Game number 1, it goes in favor of Scarlett. Alright, game number 2. We find ourselves on the map Moondance. This is the map with the quarter expos that are, well, in the back of your pocket, right? Super easy to acquire them. However, there's only 6 mineral fields compared to the conventional 8. And only a single gas geyser rather than the conventional 2. Stargate opener here from Arrog. Okay, mixing it up. Always good to see. Curious to see what he'll do in this game. Honestly, the early game in that previous match was really good. I don't think I really like the follow-up ult too much. Like, the thing is, right, making that Protoss Death Ball, I think it works quite well against weaker players. Weaker players, aka, you know, people at, like, top 25 Grandmaster, apparently. No, but, like, it works well against players that aren't, you know, ranked amongst the highest in the world, but generally speaking, the best Zerg players, they are really good at just, yeah, tearing those Protoss armies apart over the course of the game. So if you play a passive approach, you pretty much always have to go for that Skytoss army. I don't really see an alternative option. And honestly, even those passive Skytoss approaches against, you know, for example, I casted that game between Neep and Lambo recently, right? Generally speaking, not as successful. Okay, we're gonna sacrifice those Adepts. Trying to get some Zerglings, it seems. Maybe a drone or two. So 2 drones so far, but yeah, another 3rd one. Maybe this one can stay alive. No? Alright. It will stay alive. Yeah, so actually, that's totally fine. 3 Zerglings and 2 drones right there for 1 Adept. Once again, excellent start. Hero usually likes to go for about 3 oracles, sometimes up to 5. That is a very quick third nexus, so maybe going for that more gateway-heavy army that Hero likes to go for is a good idea. Now, this was also quite nice, actually. Arrogfire forced to build that oracle. Wanted to use it on the offense, but instead was forced to now bring it all the way back because the Zerglings came in for the counterattack to pick off that weakened adept from earlier. No shield battery at the front. Honestly, not seeing the shield battery right there, or seeing the lack of the shield battery here for Scarlett, is a good indicator that there's a third nexus already in the back. Otherwise, I think there would have been another unit out or something along those lines. Okay. Apparently, Oracle getting a couple kills in. My bad. Didn't see that. 3 drones. Oracle number 2 is now showing up as well. Yeah, the early game is looking really stellar. Corner base gets scouted over here. Arrogfire sees that, nope, that's not the case. Zergs like to usually go for the full base. The creep spread obviously makes defending a bit easier anyways, but this is going to be a base that Scarlett can keep in the back of her pocket, right? If she ever runs out of money, that's going to be an easy base to take. I would imagine that the base right over here on the right side is probably going to be her 4th. Never mind. What do I know? This is actually a very quick 4th hatch. Normally, we don't see the 4th hatchery until Zergs are pretty much fully saturated. This is fantastic, though. Well, that is a little bit less fantastic. A retargeting right there with the Spore Crawler. Still, 12 drones in total at the cost of 2 adepts and an oracle. 8 Zerglings on top of that, too. Not bad whatsoever. So, this is indeed going to be that more hero-esque approach. Yep. So, we have the Twilight Council together with the Forge. Now, one key that I think is critical with this sort of army is that you also do take a very quick 4th nexus. And usually what Mr. Hero does is he takes it at like 6:30 at latest. I wouldn't be surprised if Scarlett is going to try and deny that to the best of her abilities, because, you know, she knows very well that that is likely going to be one of the potential follow-ups. So, yeah, already both of the 4th nexus locations are being scouted. Oh, it's an Immortal as a follow-up. Okay, so it is actually a different approach. Okay, nope. It is a different approach entirely. We're going to go into a Robo Bay right now. I thought with the addition right here of the gateways, this would be that approach that we've seen. Maybe I've casted too many of his games recently. Okay, so we're going to go both a Robo Bay as well as a Dark Shrine. Huh. So there's the 4th... Honestly, that 4th Nexus timing is critical. 4th Nexus here coming up. Arrogfire, I think you need to step a little bit further forward. I'm a little bit concerned whenever I see this sort of thing, man. Keeping this 4th base up and running and not losing these units is absolutely critical. I don't know exactly how much there is for Zerg right now. 23 links in total. More drones are coming up, so Scarlett happy to apparently just drone up the base in the back. Don't lose any units here. You really don't want to lose any of those sentries, any of those immortals. Good set of force field over there. Okay. These are +1 links. +1 Zerglings are obviously quite a bit more powerful, so that one sentry gets snapped out in just a couple of seconds. I'm a little bit concerned for the thickness right here of this wall off, man. That is definitely not going to cut it. Zerglings will certainly be able to run past that Zealot. That Zealot needs to make some more gains in order for it to function as a door. This is one of those garage doors, okay? We need, like, a little bit more space right over there. I'm a little bit concerned that just a bunch of links are going to run in, actually. Oh, my God. Is that really a full wall? He clearly put that Zealot back just now, so I guess it is a full wall. Alright. So what are we going to do with the Dark Shrine? Triple Oracle over there. There's no Prism or anything like that, so yeah, 4 Dark Templar just being warped in at home. Are they going to wander across the map? Normally when we see DTs being played, it's for like more or less a timing attack. Yeah, no, they're just going to be meant for Archons. Okay. So once again, Arrogfire going for that more Death Ball-y based approach. Scarlett right now reading her opponent like a book, though. 17 additional drones go up. 101 workers at this stage in the game. All right. Or at this stage, rather. Triple digits drones is going to give Scarlett a ridiculous amount of income. She's once again going for the Pathogen Glance. That's the energy upgrade for the Infestors. If you start up Infestors, fun fact, if you click on the infestation pit and you hover over the progress bar in your actual game of StarCraft 2 and the timer is at about 30 to 35, if you start up Infestors, they will spawn with the energy upgrade done. And you'll have enough energy right here for a fungal growth right from the get-go. So if Scarlett were to go for like Infestors right now, they will spawn with enough energy. So she's just going Ling Bane over here. Like Ling Bane, Infestation Pit, straight into a Hive. I mean, I did recently cast some games where she went for an Ultralisk Rush. This may very well be that, like, type of strategy. I wouldn't be surprised. No, it's gonna be a Spire instead. Maybe that's just an, I don't want to die to Skytles type of Spire. That's something we see all the time. Robo Bay at this point gets scouted. Dark Shrine also spotted too. Neuroparasite coming up. There's the Ultra Cavern, yeah. So once again, we have an Ultra Cavern rush right here from Scarlett. And apparently the Spire was taken, well, primarily because she's got like 100 drones, right? So she can afford to put down whatever she likes. I am not at the pro level, I'm not a big fan of this passive approach. I think this is fantastic on the ladder. But Arrogfire basically is putting all of his eggs in one basket, and he's trying to win with this army right here, right now. And while I do believe that this works against the majority of the players on the ladder, I'm not convinced that this works. Like, if we don't really see it at the pro level very frequently, you know? I'm not convinced that this is the best approach against someone like Scarlett. So once again, good warp in over there, but the 11 probes have already gone down. More damage will need to be... Well, I mean, at this point, honestly, there's really not that much. Yeah, Scarlett even a little bit concerned, too, trying to get that money back from the Spire that she built. Decided to cancel it. Maybe that was supposed to be like a greater Spire eventually. Well, this is a Zergling killing army if I've ever seen one. A couple of Ultras are coming up. Archons obviously deal splash damage, right? So I think we need to go. Careful now, man. He's wandering so deep onto the creep. I mean, don't get me wrong, the cleaning up here is getting quite good, but there's no wall at the... Oh, sorry, I accidentally paused the game right there. The delete key in my, I've got a new keyboard recently, okay? The delete key right there is right next to the pause break key. Anyway, the delete key is, by the way, what I use for turning the camera. Good Disruptor Purification Nova. We did see a Neural Parasite being used right here on these Archons. The Archon's like, hey, guys, I like being, yeah, part of your army. Make me part of your army again. Ooh, Baelink's trying to go through. Good splits right there on the Protoss units. Ultras are coming up, though. There's a lot of energy available right here for those Queens. Neural Parasites are taking control of most of those heavy hitters right here, and that's what I'm talking about. Going for that, I'm going to make one Death Bowl and win the game with that sort of approach at this level. I don't know if I like it. I don't think I do. I mean, I'd like to be proven wrong, but I don't think that's the best approach. Alright, so now we're essentially talking 4 base Protoss with, well, maybe 3.5 base Protoss with some of these bases mining out very soon. Scarlett keeping track of exactly what's happening on those outer bases, so she knows exactly how much mining there's going to be. Chitinous plating at this point is done right here for the Ultra, so the Ultras can just start roaming the map right now too. Protoss does have about 12 units in their arsenal that are good against Ultras, but Ultras are... yeah, pretty powerful in these sort of circumstances. They're not necessarily the best unit in any circumstance, but they're always going to be pretty good, right? They don't really require a lot of micro. They're going to deal a ton of damage, and Protoss definitely has to micro against them. So Zerg, you know, mostly just attack moving there. It's going to be a little bit too much right here from Scarlett in game number 2. But I got to say, Arrogfire, especially his early game, looks very promising.